Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, Out of Voice Radio. So today, I am delighted to be showing you the deck with which Jeff Kolenc almost won the World Championships in Nashville this weekend. Pokemon Trading Card Game World Championships, he came second. He lost to Robin Schultz in the final. We've already done a profile about that deck. I'll pop a link in the description. And that's heartbreaking because he's a newer player who does not have a huge long list of achievements, although one could argue he's now got the second best achievement it's possible to have. And he did it with a deck that we were not expecting to do so well at the World Championships. Look, we all knew Malamar was a good deck. We all knew Malamar had success. Adam Hawkins did very well with the deck at the North American International Championships, but we did not expect to see it in the finals of the World Championships. That was a little bit strange, but kind of cool. So starting off then, the deck revolves around Malamar. It's all about Malamar, and Malamar's got an ability that isn't unique. We saw it on Electric, we saw it on Bronzong, and you know what? It was great on both of them, so there was no reason to think it wouldn't be great on Malamar. Once during your turn, you may grab a Psychic Energy from your discard pile and attach it to one of your benched Pokemon. Which means you can play a variety of attackers, as Jeff did, and just drop the right attacker for the right situation. Great, sounds good to me. So what attackers has he gone for? Well, he did play a Giratina promo. Now, to be fair, this isn't played as an attacker. This is played purely for Greninja Break. And we did see Martin Janus bubbled 9th place. He had the right number of match points in order to get into Top Cut, but he didn't have the right resistance. He was playing Greninja Break. Had Jeff had to play against him, and he might have done, I didn't see all of his rounds, but if he did, Greninja would basically win him the game. One card in your deck to auto-win a matchup, I think that sounds fair to me. But he played Lunala Prism Star. I have long been a fan of playing one Lunala Prism Star in any Malamar deck, because it's amazing. 160 HP basic single prize Pokemon is awesome. It's a real pain for your opponent to take down, then they only get one prize. But for one Psychic Energy, you get to count the amount of Pokemon your opponent's got in play, and then attach that many Psychic Energy from your discard to your Pokemon in any way you like. If they've got a full bench of 5, you can accelerate 6 energy from your discard pile. And in some games, that will give you enough energy that you can win. Sometimes you're going to be against a Garbodor and you won't have access to Malamar. Sometimes your opponent is going to Guzma and KO all of your Inkays before you ever actually get a Malamar going. Some games you're going to draw badly. To put it simply, you are not always going to have access to Malamar in every game that you play. And believe me, I've tested this deck a lot, and there were plenty of games I won without Malamar, and it's because of Lunala Prism Star. It's basically like 6 attachments with Malamar in one go. It's great. But against other matchups, it's all about using Psystorm. 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to all Pokemon in play. Well, against a deck like Rayquaza, whose pretty much entire goal is get lots of energy out and smash, this is amazing. You are going to get 2 prizes off a Rayquaza, and they're going to then have to take you out for 1 prize, because if they don't, you'll just keep one-hit KOing them turn after turn. So they've got to KO Lunala, so they've got to trade 2 prize for 1. In any deck that plays lots of energy, it's amazing. But we also saw multiple Marshadow. Now this makes me look a bit stupid, because I've been saying in videos for ages it's got the lowest HP in the game in terms of GX, but nobody's playing it. I've used the phrase on many occasions, literally nobody's playing it. Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Jeff is. And it's great. It allows you to hit for weakness on a Zoroark. The ability allows you to just copy the attacks of any basic Pokemon in your discard pile. And aside from Malamar, you're only playing basic Pokemon here. So firstly, you can reuse attacks from Pokemon that had to be discarded. Maybe it was a Professor Sycamore. And secondly, you get to hit fighting weakness against Zoroark, which is super important given that Zoroark is everywhere. Now, it is weak to Psychic, which means it's weak to Garbodor, and like we saw in the final, his opponent was playing Garbodor with Zoroark, so there's a weird kind of I'm hitting you for weakness but you're hitting me for weakness thing going on here. But against some Zoroark decks that aren't playing Garbodor, this as good as gives you the win. You're just getting easy KOs on Zoroark over and over again. It's brilliant and awesome, and I love it. I love that after months of not seeing any play from anyone, Marshadow gets seriously repped in the World Championships finals. We also see a Mimikyu here. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Another card which doesn't see much play at all got played here. Mimikyu attacks for 2 energy, but remember, if these Pokemon ever look expensive, just remember Malamar's got your back. Copycat. If your opponent's Pokemon used an attack that isn't a GX attack during their last turn, use it as this attack. Now, against stuff like Rayquaza, it's not going to do very much good. Against something like a Zoroark, where they've got resistance, it's not going to do that much good. But Buzzwole uses Knuckle Impact. You get to use Knuckle Impact, and you're hitting for weakness, so you get an easy KO without having to use a Choice Band with a single prize Pokemon. And then there's just weird stuff. Tapu Bulu comes along. Well, if Tapu Bulu uses Nature's Judgment or Tapu Wilderness, you can then copy that attack to get a one-hit KO on a Tapu Bulu. And by now you're probably starting to see where Jeff is going with his deck. I don't care what I'm playing against. I'm playing a whole bunch of random Pokemon, except they're far from random, and I've got an answer for everything. Now, we did see an Oranguru here. To be fair, it's got a not terrible attack. Psychic, 60 damage plus 20 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active. Nice if you're against anything that's just piling energy on. But really, Oranguru here is played for Instruct. Lets you draw until you got 3 cards in hand. Gives you that consistency crutch. You don't really have space to play Octillery, but Oranguru will fill the void quite nicely. We see Necrozma GX here, and Necrozma GX is basically your deck's way of saying, if you've got something giant, I'm taking it down. Necrozma GX is weak to Psychic, so all those cards like Mew EX that people are playing to take down Buzzwole will also take down this. But first of all, it's got immunity to colourless Pokemon. Gives you a nice little option. Secondly, discard all Psychic energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 10 damage plus 60 more for each energy you discarded. So you put on and discard 4, you're doing 250. That's ridiculous. Necrozma can hit hard enough to KO anything. That's why it's in the deck. Although a GX attack that does 100 damage to all of your opponent's EXs and GXs, not too bad. But to be clear, the GX you want here is on Dawnwing's Necrozma. Dawnwing's Necrozma is here for 2 reasons. Firstly, the ability Invasion lets you jump in the active. You can then attach a Float Stone and free retreat it, so you can make sure that your opponent can never Guzma and Malamar in the active to stall you out. And you can guarantee that you've always got the right attacker, which is nice. That's good. But also, we've got the GX attack here, and in most games, this is your GX attack of choice. You can only use it if you're behind on prizes, if you're losing the game, but if you're winning the game, you don't need it, so don't worry about it. It does 180 damage, but gives you immunity next turn. Prevent all effective attacks, including damage, done to this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. So if you can use this to get a one-hit KO on something like a Rayquaza, for instance, or a Tapu Lele or whatever, you're taking 2 prizes. And if your opponent doesn't play a Guzma, they're not getting a KO the following turn. That is crazy good. The main attack sucks, but you take a KO, your opponent doesn't really get a turn, at least they don't get an attack, and then you bring up something like Necrozma to take your next prize. And the last Pokemon we see here as an attacker is Mewtwo GX. Mewtwo GX came around a little while ago after not seeing play for ages, and I even made a video about how it's coming back into the game. I'll try and remember to link it in the description. And honestly here, it's just a nice little efficient attacker. So the first attack does 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to this Pokemon. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's not great, because you don't really want to be piling that much energy onto a Mewtwo. There are other Pokemon you can use. But for 2 energy, 60 damage, heal 30. So if you're against something like a Buzzwole here, well, you're doing 120, as a matter of course, and then your opponent hits you with something like a Jet Punch, but then you can heal 30, which is quite nice. And then the GX attack does 200 and isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So let's say your opponent used a Dawnwing's Necrozma. Well, you could use a Mewtwo to get a one-hit KO anyway, ignoring the effect of their GX attack. And that's what this deck does, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this deck does. Now, in terms of item cards, there wasn't a huge amount that unusual here. He did play Acrobike. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand, one in your discard. Just, it gives you a bit of extra speed while also putting energy in the discard, hopefully, for Malamar. And he played Mysterious Treasure, which is just really good because it searches out all of your psychic Pokemon. And to be honest, it's just a more effective Ultra Ball. You only get to discard 1 card, which could be bad if there's lots of energy in your hand. But often you don't want to do the double discard. That's pretty important. And we did see Max Elixir here. Again, you are not always going to have Malamar. So being able to look at the top 6 cards of your deck and attach a basic energy to one of your bench basic Pokemon, all your attackers are basic, yeah, that's pretty good. It's another thing that will help either in the early game, give you a turn 1 Mewtwo for instance, or in those games where you don't have Malamar. And we did see Lily here. Lily's a nice turn 1 supporter. And I suppose I should also mention Tapu Lele, but everybody plays Tapu Lele. That's not important or exciting. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Malamar. A deck we did not expect to see in the finals of the World Championships, but I love this list. I love all the different Pokemon, how adaptable it is. It's an awful lot of fun. It had a very, very rough matchup against Robin Zoroark Garbodor in the final. It was not a game he should have been favoured. I mean, I tweeted out a poll before the final and 75% of people said Robin was going to win. And honestly, that did seem a little bit low to me. But still a fun deck and an epic win in top 4 against the Rayquaza deck I did not expect him to beat. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Jeff for winning, and now it's over to you. Tell me in the comment section what you think about this deck. Tell me what you think about this list. Go nuts, but do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. It's very important. You must be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves. Until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.